We're live, but it's upside down.
Charger on the bottom, it goes in.
I put it in upside down.
That would be.
I don't know how to put it on. Does that go? No, it goes in. I flipped it in. Oh, now it's backwards.
No pressure.
Oh my gosh, guys.
I'm calling. You're all right. They're answering me text.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. You're live. Break it.
Can you now? Okay. Can you see anything now?
It's just black. There's a shutter. A lens cover or something.
Are you getting audio?
I got audio, but no visual.
Is the camera covered up?
Yeah, that's what it's.
There's two things in the middle, like those are lenses.
Oh, you know what? It's delayed. Okay. I think we're good. It's probably delayed because it was upside down.
Alright.
Give it a second. I think we're good.
Okay, keep going.
Oh my god.
There, now we're on the floor.
Yeah. We were for a second.
Cause she took it out, but.
Oh, nice new finger. Alright, I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay.
You're
We're
on.
good.
You're on.
Okay, we can start. We'll call this Monday, February 5th, City Council work session to order. With the clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sheldon.
Here.
Brackman. Here. Kennedy.
Here.
Reynolds.
Present.
Faulkner.
Here.
Bonfiglio.
Here.
Diversa.
Here.
Russell.
Here.
President Dolls.
Here, thank you. At this time, we'll give an opportunity for people to speak to the council. If you'd like to address the council tonight, please stand up, give your name and address, and limit your remarks to 5 minutes. Anyone here like to address the council?
I'm Doug Champ, I live at 225 Bowling Street in Jamestown. Earlier, I read a long statement to the Housing Committee, and I won't go over that again now because of the necessity of other urgent issues that need to be applied. But my point will be sent to you by that conversation by email. And I look forward to City Council participating in some kind of response about that. And as you all know, I've spent a long time talking about housing and the need of housing and what the housing platform is going to be, what the housing assistance programs are going to be, and how we're going to unfold that in the future is paramount to this community. And I could say the county as well. So it's a necessity that we look at what housing we want. Do we want rental housing? Do we want owner-occupied housing? Today I took a look at a realtor website and I looked at the number of houses for sale in Jamestown. The number at that site was 71. 37 of them were multifamily houses for sale. 37, more than half. The problem that we also seem to have is the understanding of how we assisted rental housing to landlords. We forget that that's a business enterprise. It's not like a necessity of a home owner. Renters have a necessity. I'm not doubting that. But it's a business process. You either make money or lose money. It's not a community subsidized effort at $30,000 a unit. A unit. You got 3 units, you get $90,000. You can buy houses for $90,000. So my point is this, and Crystal's heard this many times before. And I know she's in a rock and a hard place at the same time, but we have got to see change in this community, and we can't delay it. We can't delay it by citing past performance or thinking about what we could have done. We got to do more now, and I expect more, quite frankly, to be done. Yeah, you got 1,200 cases on the housing complaints. We have a governmental entity called Judiciary Action, who does very little in terms of expediting housing code enforcement. We'll give you another day, we'll give you another month, we'll give you another year. And consequently, the people this month paid their taxes. They paid their taxes to support this community. But at the same time, they look at abandoned, condemned, housing violated properties. Is that right? Do we do that because we have to do that? So my point is this, and I'll sum it up. You're on the threshold in this community of losing its value completely around housing. No new housing is built in the neighborhoods, old neighborhoods, in half a century. The population in Jamestown hasn't gone up since 1950. 1950. That's more than most of you people are age-wise. So I think housing is a keystone, unless the city council jumps in with both feet and does something to support what's got to change. 4 years from now, we'll be talking about the same thing. Maybe not me, but your constituents do every day. They have to look at that abandoned house, that condemned house. My grandkids have been going to school and the house is still condemned. That was 12 years ago. So that's my point. What are you prepared to do?
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council?
Mr. President, are we on the
Yes.
agenda?
You're after public.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Anyone else like to address the council? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to presentation by Chautauqua County officials. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President and Madam Mayor. For the record, my name is Dave Wolfong, and I live at 39 Norton Avenue, Jamestown, New York. I'm the Chautauqua County Legislator for District 11, City of Jamestown. I'm also the Majority Leader of the Chautauqua County Legislature. This evening, I'll be assisted by Lisa Vanstrom, County Legislator and Assistant Majority Leader, Chautauqua County Legislator. And joining us this evening is Shannon Fisher, and she is the manager of the airports. And yes, folks, there are more than one. There's two. I want you to remember that tonight. We've also got some other elected officials that are here with me. And right behind me is Pierre Chagnon. He's the chairman of the legislature, and of course, you know our county executive is here. And then Phil Landy is here. He's another Jamestown legislator. I've asked for this meeting to open a direct line of communication from county government to city government. I'm sure that we all realize the importance of a vibrant and thriving airport and the huge economic driver that it could be. This will not be an easy task, and we will need bipartisan dedication and hard work by county government and city government. Tonight we'll be hearing from Shannon about airport operations, departures, arrivals, and the opportunity to bring back commercial air service to the Jamestown Airport. So I'm going to turn this meeting over to Shannon.
Good evening, Shannon Fisher, Airports Manager for Chautauqua County. I've been here just about 2 years now. My background is in aviation. I've been in aviation about 22 years and started off my career in consulting, I was a planning manager for the Cleveland airport system, so I've done my entire career in airports. I love our airports. You know, a lot of times I hear just what Dave said, you know, oh, we have more than one airport? We do. We have two thriving airports, actually, general aviation airports, as most of you know. The unfortunate part is that we did lose commercial service, and I feel like that's what most people, you know, see. But we do have 9 employees that are dedicated to both airports, 2 that are specifically in Dunkirk. We've got 4 airport operations guys here at Jamestown, and then 3 of us are back and forth between both airports 50% of the time. Dunkirk Airport, I'm sure you saw the article in the paper this week, so I was going to talk a little bit about that, the operations. This year we're down a little bit in operations, but we made up for it in jet and helicopter traffic. So we almost doubled our helicopter and jet operations this year and had 2 record-breaking months this past summer for fuel. And the lower operations basically just means the larger aircraft were coming in because we were higher in the fuel sales. As most of you guys know, we're starting a air service recovery program. It'll be about a 3 to 6 month process, and we will be getting data that will help us in the support of commercial air service. And you know, as Dave mentioned, the support would be great from both county and the city. And in the meantime though, that part of that study, that I said it's data driven, we will be looking at the catchment area, what areas are you guys traveling to? Are you going to Buffalo, are you going to Erie, Pittsburgh? There will be a leakage study done to see what we're missing out on, how can we get those folks to come to our area? So there'll probably be surveys that go out, people will be reaching out to you in the next few months. And then we'll be looking for funding opportunities. Essential Air Service is probably the one that you're known most. EAS is what we lost in 17. And there are other funding opportunities out there, and we still we are able to apply for Essential Air Service. Again, it's just making sure that we have all the information that we need, and this Air Service Recovery Program will help us in applying for that again. So we'll also be working with other air carriers to help with that application. And in the meantime, we worked with a group called Restore since about last summer, last July we started. It's about 9 other airports that are in a similar situation as us. This isn't an issue that's just local to us, it's all over the nation. A lot of the smaller rural airports are losing their air service, so we need to find ways to get it back. So this Restore mission is to help legislatively to find other funding sources, and it's another avenue that should help us in getting that back. What was I going to say here? I was asked the question, I guess, about why do I think that, what's different about us, and how, why do I think we could get the EAS back? And there are waivers. We still do qualify for Essential Air Service. In the past, it wasn't that we didn't have the ridership, and I know this was previous to when I was here, but we had the people that wanted to fly. It was the service at the time that kind of went downhill. So we know that that's a huge hurdle, getting the right airline back here, and also everything has to just come together in a line. It's not going to be an easy process, but it is something that we can do. Do you want to talk a little bit more about
Sure, no. One of the things is the economic indicators that are gonna drive the airport, if that's where it's really gonna be. We need ridership. We can fill out a lot of surveys, we can go to our elected officials and say what we need, but it really is, it boils down to the ridership per day, per month for us to get that essential air service back. That's the most important part. Now people say, well, what about Cummins engine? We know Cummins engine has its own airplanes, so we're fighting that. One of the good things we did have was we had a visit at the Airport Commission, who, by the way, meets the first Wednesday of the month at 9 o'clock at the airport. If anybody would want to plug that and have people come, it is open to the public.
I do want to add too on the Cummins. They're actually one of our biggest supporters. Although they do have their own business aircraft, they fly in twice a week during the summertime, and the only time they can't actually use our airport is when there's wet conditions, so snow on the ground in the winter time, just because of the runway length. So they do utilize, they're one of our largest supporters, not only on the business travel side, but also they'd love to bring people in commercially as well. We just met with them last week on that, so a lot of support.
Our last meeting we had with Chautauqua Institution, and they are very interested. And the good thing about them is they've got cash. So that's a good thing about the institution. And they really want to provide that service from either Cleveland or Buffalo to come to Jamestown, because a lot of the people that they do business with have a little money. So it's very important that we get that. We're going to need your help when it comes to getting people to come to Jamestown via the air. And the people ask you about air service. It's very important that we get the city behind us when we try to move forward to get this survey done. And one of the reasons I wanted to come tonight was actually speak to you, because I didn't want you to hear about this service and maybe our failure. I wanted to be upfront with you so you would understand what's at stake and what we're trying to do at the airport. Now, we will field any questions that you have at any time. You just want to raise your hand. Go ahead.
Hi,
Russ.
Russ to Shannon. Weren't the runways extended to handle bigger aircraft? I mean, how big is the aircraft that they can't land bigger than?
Yeah, I don't know the specifics on, but the Cummins aircraft is one of the largest that we get there on a regular basis. So it's not necessarily that they can't, they have their own minimum qualifications that they have to follow. And, I mean, we clear the runways even when it snows. We'll have what they call threes, or it's between the 0 to 5 scale. They can't land on threes. So other aircraft similar size, different companies can. It's just more of a preference on their part. They would like about 1,500 more feet for extension on the primary runway. If we had that, we could land just about anything.
Is it possible is there room to extend it 1,500 feet?
We could do anything.
There's
With
money.
money.
That's why we're here. Thank you, Gus, for leading us into that.
I mean, my background's in planning, so it was always a wish list of items. But you can, sure you can extend, but I mean that's a huge feat, like moving roads and
Yeah.
moving the tunnel.
Personally, when Jamestown had it, I flew out of there a lot, to Pittsburgh, basically to Pittsburgh most of the time. But it was great, but now, what a Buffalo most of the time, I agree.
And things have changed with, we were just talking in the back earlier about the hub service. So likely the Pittsburghs and the Clevelands of the world are probably not our most viable options these days. So we're probably looking at different routes and heading somewhere where we can you can have a layover, your bags are going with you. Because I think that was another huge issue was if you were to travel through Pittsburgh, you had to get off and recheck your bags. These are all things that will be looked at and what the best route is for our area.
And believe it or not, believe it or not, the runways at Dunkirk Airport are actually longer, so they accommodate a larger jet. And believe it or not, there's quite a business in jet aircraft and the storing of them. I was amazed when I went up there in the hangars that we have built. There's some private hangars up there also. So if we could just move the Dunkirk Airport to Jamestown, Shannon says no. Shannon says no.
There's actually a huge need for both airports. So I know we hear this on a regular basis, but with one runway there is longer. Dunkirk is strictly a general aviation airport. It will not be a commercial airport. There's a lot of things that go along with that. We basically would be rebuilding the entire airport if that were the case. Separations, we can get a larger jet on the runway because it's longer, but the separation between taxiway and runway is not as wide as we have in Jamestown. We're set up for commercial service here. It is 500 feet longer at Dunkirk. And if you're flying to Dunkirk, you're flying to Dunkirk. Those folks are not coming to Jamestown, they're going to the Buffalo area. It's two totally different needs is what we've found. When we had our runway project last year, we closed down our primary runway at Jamestown. We had people who actually were hangared at Jamestown who went to a different airport to the hangar, not at Dunkirk. They didn't want to drive the 40 minutes. So those folks who are flying into Jamestown are strictly coming to the southern tier. The ones that are flying into Dunkirk are usually avoiding going to Buffalo, but heading towards that direction. So we have several businesses in both, at both airports, and they don't overlap.
Air Force Two,
I'd also like to ask the county executive if he'd like to have any input.
Certainly. One of the things, an interesting, a little clarification. So with Cummins, it's not a matter they can't land their aircraft, but they have to have a proper, like an abort plan to take back off. So that's really where their hiccup was. And again, in that winter weather, it becomes problematic. Cummins is a big, huge supporter of ours. As we said before, when I first came into office, we've done a lot of airport studies. What I wanted to do was take everything and sit down and say, what haven't we done? There's got to be something we're missing. Well, Shannon, as a consultant prior to this, was part of that group that then Ron Altmeter knew the one thing we have not done is a market analysis. We've done so many studies on the runways, the airports, and different, but we've never done a market analysis to find out if we have the market to support this. This was the missing link. This is what we pushed forward. So again, it was in the budget, it was taken out, it was put back in. We came to a compromise now between the IDA and ARPA funding to get this study done. Having said that, we're ready to pivot. As Shannon said, they're both general aviation airports now. So where do we go from here? If Jamestown is declared, well, we don't have the market to support that essential air service, then we do have opportunity to expand and put T hangars, smaller hangars, where right now there are people coming from Akron, New York, didn't even know I had an airport, but coming to Jamestown to hang at their airports because we have space. We have how many hangars up there, Shannon, T hangars?
At Dunkirk,
Yeah.
we have the team here. We have one row with 8, and we've got a waiting list. We always have a waiting list at Dunkirk.
So if we were to put, let's say, 30 T hangars, even in Jamestown, we would fill those and have a revenue source coming in. There are some opportunities coming around. One of the things that people forgot about is we have been set up and we've been ready for electric air service. You know, I talked to an aviator who said, wow, why would I go with electric? That's ridiculous. Well, people said the same thing about flying in an airplane 100 years ago. But when you look at the electric aircraft, the vertical takeoff and landing, the efficiency of that aircraft, we found out when, I forget the name of the aircraft. Beta. The Aliyah came in. It's got a glide ratio of 17-1. It's got a better glide ratio than any commercial airline that's out there now. So if it were to lose its power, it could glide in, and in fact, they told us they shut the engines off long before they came into Dunkirk the last year, even before they landed. So electric air travel is not out of the realm of possibility. So we have a lot of opportunity. Shannon's been working, and I've already asked her to start those discussions in lieu of not knowing what this study is going to provide. But again, as we've said, if people had any clue of the people who flew in and out of these airports, it would blow your mind. People come here to get away. They come here to almost hide, if you will. Celebrities, dignitaries, they fly in and out of that airport on a regular basis. I was privileged enough. I'll share a story with you. Terry Bradshaw flew in. Was doing a show in Salamanca. Told us stories of how he has his own bourbon. The night before, he was in a store and he was signing bottles, putting it back on the shelf. Well, wouldn't you know, what did we see on Facebook last week? Him walking through a store, signing his bottles and putting it back on. I was fortunate enough, he was very cordial. Got out, was talking, you know, and really loved the area. He was a fisherman, hunter, talked a lot about what's going on. That's one person. The dignitaries and people of significant wealth that fly in and out of the airport is amazing. The institution's very excited about this opportunity. Again, they have a lot of people that fly in, they'll fly into Buffalo and or Erie or Cleveland and be able to land here is greatly appreciated. We've been in talks with Michael Haley and their staff now for quite some time. So the opportunity is right. Dave said, you know, the community support is really where we're at right now. We know we've had the business support with the last endeavor with an airline, so we're looking at that again. You know, but it really takes the community to support this as we move forward. And one of the things that we've talked about in the past, you know, people say, we need it, and then all of a sudden when it comes time to actually utilizing it, they choose not to. So it's one of those things, you know, we need to get behind and support it. But the other thing that people have to realize, we could have commercial air service here tomorrow. The downside is nobody would be able to afford the ticket prices. You know, so this idea is we can't support it. We could get we can get commercial air service back probably to drop a hat, and Shannon can tell you. But we don't have the subsidies, that's what we need. It's really important. I'm very confident in where we're going now. You know, we've had a lot of great people operating that airport. We've had a lot of great facilities managers, and I'm not taking anything away from any of the men who were our airport managers in the past. But we have never had anybody with a bachelor's and a master's degree in airport maintenance and safety as we do with Shannon in airport management. So we have a key player here who is an asset, who is, you know, our go-to, my go-to when it comes to the airports. So we convened the study. It began on the 1st of September, as David said. Get behind it and getting the support as we go there. But we're ready to move. If this comes back and say, it's not happening, then it's not happening. We're ready to pivot, we're ready to move in that general aviation airport and looking at now an investment, the ROI, the return on investment. If the county invests money, where do we see the return in those types of operations as well? So again, it's amazing. You know, most counties are lucky to have one airport. We have two. Very distinct, very unique airports. But the consortium that Shannon left out is places like Hagerstown, Maryland, Williamsport, Pennsylvania. We're the key leader in that. You know, they're looking at us for guidance. They're looking at us for support. So, you know, we're going to continue to be that leader in that consortium. We're going to still move, talking with elected officials in Washington, talking with people in New York State, whoever we need to talk to. The opportunities are there. You know, we're going to take advantage of that. And Shannon is always looking for grant opportunities. In fact, we're working with a firm now. There's more grant opportunities here, to Russ's question. You know, runways, you know, extensions of the runway. Previous grants have always been tied to extending the ownership and the livelihood of the airport as far as keeping it open longer. There's been some question of that over the years, so now these newer grants we're looking at don't have that stipulation. If the grant money would come, it would be able to either extend, remediate, do whatever we need to for the runways, but we're still looking at every option. We don't leave any stone unturned. We don't look at past anything. we are constantly looking for improvements. Thanks.
Shannon, quick question. Bradford, they have a commercial, right? How do they
Yeah, they actually have the same commercial service that we had here at Jamestown in the past. What I've been told from not only the airline but other consultants that we've been working with is they've got that connection with the hospitals and with the universities, and they go directly back and forth. I've pretty much been told without that, they wouldn't, without the students, they wouldn't have service.
Joe Paternini, City Council Ward 4. Question regarding the possibility of going to more than one location for connectivity. Is it possible, or is it something that strictly be Pittsburgh or Cleveland or both? Is it possible to do that, number one? And given some of the businesses in the southern tier down here, Cummins Engine, which you spoke of, you have Chicago Institution. UPMC is a viable part of a network now that we're tied into with our local hospital, and I think Pittsburgh, from my standpoint, would be a very viable spot for us to really look at, because the connectivity there, as opposed to Cleveland, it's a much better airport, number one, I think. But again, now you have the National Comedy Center that is trying to establish themselves as a destination place, and I think the marketing of those places as well as some of the other big businesses is key to how you guys approach it as far as marketing it and where you want to go.
Sure. I'm going to stick to anything as possible, but we are going to be studying those routes. What's, like I was mentioning before, what's different about the Clevelands and Pittsburghs is they're no longer hub airports. So you stop there, you're going to another destination and then on to your destination. Not a lot of people want to do that. So the better option is a bigger airport, the Dulleses of the world, those type. I can't determine that just right now.
I think
but
Bradford flies to Dulles.
Yep.
Yeah, it does.
They do, and
It
it's
does.
the similar service to what we would probably have here. So
Okay.
that's one option. I mean, all of the routes will be looked at. That was something that we were told from the DOT when we applied in the past with the applications when we reapplied, that they didn't feel like all the routes were studied, and that's where this study will definitely help us.
Perfect.
I won't argue with you about Cleveland and Pittsburgh, but I did work at Cleveland for 8 years. So.
You're trying.
Oh, go ahead, Russ.
When we talking bringing commercial back, are we talking the smaller planes, 16, 18 passenger, or whatever the market will support?
Are you going to pay for that runway extension, or?
So it'll be the smaller planes,
Yeah,
smaller
like
jets,
maybe
which is
smaller
fine.
jets, so we can have
I flew in them a
annual-
lot, I never had a problem with that, but.
Yeah.
this was the
Year-round
best.
service is what we'd hope for. I mean, it's pretty tough having seasonal, although I'd like to get, any service would be good right now, but, we can fly charters out whenever, anyone can charter a plane whenever they want. But yeah, it would likely be a smaller plane at this moment.
Is there grants you can get for to extend the runway?
Yeah, we looked at one of the groups we talked about, we talked with, there's a DOT, federal DOT grant that's available, so we've been like Shannon said, it's just, what are the strings attached sometimes? They don't mean as far as keeping the airport open, what is the local match, what are the requirements of everything, but we're looking at it.
Is there any kind of estimate, like what 1,500, 2,000 feet would cost? I mean, offhand or a guesstimate?
Million.
A million, that's what I think. I was gonna say.
I think they,
No.
million has some
More-
plural.
Yeah, the
I think,
problem is,
yeah,
if we extended our primary runway 1,500 feet, we'd be moving, West Oak Hill, we'd be purchasing
okay.
properties. I mean, it would be a huge undertaking.
Just not
so.
extending runway,
Yeah,
that's.
no, there's a lot that goes along with it. Right now, if we extended 700 feet, we would get up to where the tunnel is, and the
Right.
tunnel just is, it's okay if an aircraft landed for safety reasons, once, but it's not rated for, no, on a regular basis. And that's our best option for an extension is that direction. We've looked at all directions on the master plan that we just finished, but that's probably the best route. But the grants that the county executive is talking about, the one that we just looked at was a DOT grant, and right now we utilize the FAA for a lot of our grants, the AIP funding, airport improvement funding, and we do every year we're utilizing those grants on a regular basis. They need justification, and right now we cannot justify the operations, kind of like that chicken or egg thing.
Right,
We
right.
can't justify the operations for a runway extension, yet if we don't have it, well, I mean,
Or the planes.
right, but if we did have it, we feel like we could justify
Right,
that,
right.
you know, but they don't do that whole, if you build it, they will come type of thing, they wanna see it now, so. For the DOT grant, you don't quite need that justification.
Thank you.
I'd like, Pierre would like to speak too, he makes a couple comments.
Oh, actually, I'm just sitting here thinking that there's probably ladies and gentlemen in the audience who are thinking, are there any commercial air carriers that are interested in providing service to the Jamestown Airport? And so Shannon, I'll leave it to you to answer that.
Thank you, Pierre, I appreciate that. Yes, I mean, even the former airline that was here, there's a lot of interest, but there are only a few that fall under that essential air service, and just like the county executive was mentioning, you know, that is what offset that funding to make it reasonable for all of us to fly. So it's mainly the funding source. If we had that funding source, we can bring in an airline. And, you know, like we were mentioning, we were working with the Restore Coalition on different funding sources to try to offset those costs. But ultimately, you would want that airline to be able to sustain itself instead of relying on that essential air service contract forever.
Now, we've had contracts in the past for previous air services, correct?
Yes.
What's going to be different this time around, where we're gonna be able to have an airline in there that's gonna be profitable?
Yep, so, I mean, we had essential air service, that was the contract we had with the DOT. And like I was mentioning, we're looking at other funding sources as well to help them be self-sustaining. It's not that we can't have essential air service, there are waivers, we do qualify right now. Before, in the proximity to Buffalo was too close, now they're a small hub airport, so we fit the bill again. And we don't have to worry about a waiver for that. They look at 10 enplanements a day. On a service day, like I was saying, the ridership was there, we had the people to actually fly, but the service, you know, was terrible at the time. So we would need an airline to, one of the funding sources that we're looking at with this Restore Coalition, I can't go into all of it, but would help, you know, instead of giving a flat rate over the years, would maybe help over time would lower the rate that they were getting to a point where you have to figure out how to be self-sustaining. So there are lots of different options, it's just everything coming together at the right time.
But we do all agree that this is an economic driver that we must have, especially for Chautauqua County and of course the city. Even the Seneca Nation would love to have the planes coming in, so they could actually promote their own gambling casinos and their golf destinations. I'm just saying that I think if we don't get this, it'll be certainly a sad day in Jamestown and Chautauqua County if we cannot bring that commercial air service in.
Yes.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Lisa Vanstrom, District 15, for Chautauqua County Legislature. A few years ago, I think PG will remember this really well, and I think Pierre as well, and David also. Vince Horgan, our former county executive, had a big presentation and a study done, and it was really interesting. It showed circles of travel and commerce. So if you lose the airport, you also lose all the commerce. It's like a magnet for corporations and other things. So it's actually like a deficit to lose that asset. Have you heard of that, Shannon?
Yeah, I mean, the value of
Yeah.
airports are more than just your direct, I mean, the folks that fly in are utilizing our tourism, our restaurants, are buying things here, you know, and I think that's something that's so hard for airports everywhere to justify is just the value of aviation as a whole, because you can't put one single dollar amount on it, that people think that even right now, that it's not good the way that they are, but we bring in a lot of value as is. And like I said in the paper, I feel like commercial service would just be icing on the cake. So it's not that we don't, you know, we're not valuable as they are at the moment, but it would be even better for our communities to have commercial air service.
I think what it comes down to is cost. I mean, for example, a couple weeks from now, I'll be flying with my family to Florida, and I get online and I shop for the cheapest ticket. Generally, we fly out of Buffalo. but this time around, it was much cheaper to fly out of Cleveland, direct Cleveland to Florida. So if someone's gonna be taking a family vacation, they generally are shopping for price. And if it's cheaper to fly out of Cleveland or Buffalo somewhere, they're gonna choose that. Probably over Jamestown, and that's my only concern. Obviously, the cost and then the ease and convenience of baggage and, direct flights. And, that's my only concern.
Yeah, I do think that, I agree with you, because I'm doing something similar. I'm actually driving to New York City, because Buffalo was double the price, so, we're all in the same boat there. But if I had to pay a couple $100 more to fly out of Jamestown, I would definitely do that for the, low-cost parking and
Sure.
for the ease of traffic. I think there's some leeway there, but, yeah, we need that. We still need to offset the funding, to be able to have those lower cost tickets.
And the subsidy on those tickets is going to be the key driver. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think it's $69 from Bradford to Dulles. That's not a bad price. I don't know what the parking is at the Bradford airport, but if you come to the Jamestown airport, it's free. But that's the key, for $69 to Dulles, and then from Dulles to Florida, I would certainly do that. I'm like everybody else, we fly too. But if I could save $400 and I leave from Pittsburgh when I fly to Houston, I would drive to Pittsburgh. But if I could catch something for $69, myself and my wife, we are definitely there for sure. So that's gonna be the key, is the subsidized ticket, in my humble opinion. That's all.
What is it you need from us at this point? Like,
No.
specifically, is there anything that you need from the city?
No, I just wanted you to be aware that this study is going on, and for some reason, if we fail, it's gonna be a huge economic blow to the city. I want you to be ready for that. Because I don't think the communication between the county and the city has been that good within the last 3 or 4 years. And we need to bring that back. During the Teresi administration, we were always welcome to be here. I actually received many phone calls from Sam. I actually always got a copy of Sam's itinerary every month of where he was going to be. That's the kind of relationship we have to have. And don't just think that I'm going to just stop coming. I came to the city of Jamestown because I wanted you to know that news. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to be going to the city of Dunkirk for the same reason. That two-way communication between the legislature, the county executive, that's very, very important. I want you to be able to think that you can pick up the phone and call your legislator, or PJ has open door policy every Friday, but you can come and talk to us about what your needs are going to be, because I think that's been lacking. That's why I called for the meeting. I didn't want you to hear that secondhand about the survey. I was calling it a market survey, but Shannon said I should be calling it
Air Service Recovery Program.
There you go. Did you get that there, Post-Journal? Okay. You guys got anything else you want? Okay.
I just want to say one more thing.
Oh.
I want everyone to know we are doing things at the airport also. April 7th and 8th, we'll have a solar eclipse event at the Jamestown Airport. More information will follow, but just a little bit. We'll have 2 pancake breakfasts Sunday and Monday morning. We're anticipating up to 100 aircraft at each airport, and the one down in Tennessee. Regardless of weather, people are planning to come. We just watched a video on a meeting on Friday for the airports, and we plan to be busy. So we have vendors that are prepared, almost 40 so far, and we'll have some pre-registration bags, and it should be a pretty fun event.
I'll throw in a plug too that Jamestown High School just started an aviation program this year. They have been taking visits to the airport, bringing kids up there. I think they did some first flights up there as well. They purchased simulators here at Jamestown High School, and I think it's an excellent program. I myself am a commercial pilot. I haven't flown in years, but I do hold that rating, and I know there's a massive shortage right now for pilots, and it's a great industry to push children to at this time to get into.
Agreed.
So, just so everybody's clear, I'm hearing a lot of these things the same time everybody else is. We haven't had any personal discussion, but in light of that, Dave, if there's something, Shannon, you guys from the legislator, PJ, that this city can do, please do not hesitate to ask us. If we need to get some PR on our website, on our social media, you need any of our assistance in any of these departments, just let us know.
Thank you.
I think this young lady back here had a question.
I would think that there would have to be a comprehensive plan to understand how this is gonna drive the local economy, being that it is in Jamestown. I understand that for, Chicago County has interest, the money's in Chicago institution. That would be a seasonal, vehicle for traffic. How would you sustain long-term use of the airport? How would it drive all of the local economies in Chautauqua County that are interested, whether it's a medical corridor between Pittsburgh and Jamestown to build up UPMC or the hospital connection, whether it's JCC with aviation students. There would have to be, I would think, a long-term strategy for how local economy could grow and what drives that and what the, not only long-term but short-term, and how to build that up. Industries can develop around it, but it can't just be, oh, let's get some grant money and get this off the ground. There has to be a long-term strategy for economic development in Jamestown.
Right, right. Absolutely.
Just to touch on that a little bit, we do, every so often, and we just did it last year, we ended our master plan, the 20-year master plan for the airports, mainly improvement plan, and it, does touch on that a little bit, the economic value and whatnot, but it shows what the plan is as far as, airport improvements over the next 20 years and how we play that out. But it's, I just wanna keep reiterating the value of airports as they are too. General aviation airports are, just the value is something we cannot put a number on, and people are already using our economy. That commercial service would just, again, add to it. But I do agree with you, we have other options other than just this that we're looking into as well. We even touched on some air taxi just a little bit ago, how we might get that off the electric. We're always looking at different options,
I mean, from an operational standpoint, that's one thing. Then you have maintenance, you have seasonal use, you have people in Jamestown that can't afford, won't be able to afford the ticket. So is it going to be just for, business use? Or can it, can things pop up around it? Will different regions in Chautauqua County have to fight over who has programming, over flight patterns in and out? Do certain jurisdictions have, more sway? The point is that this is Jamestown City Council, and how will Jamestown benefit? That's the overarching question that I have.
I've got a question. Have you ever looked at VTOLs? You know what they are, vertical takeoff and landing craft? The Harrier jet in the military, of course, takes military certification, but there's a whole bunch of variations coming out that are gonna be electrical. So in other words, you don't have to have a runway as long as what you need. Vertical takeoff and landing craft could be a distinct possibility, but they're tailor-made, not just like choppers, but they're tailor-made for more transportation. Have you ever thought about that?
The ALIA that's here by Beta Technologies is just that. It is a vertical takeoff and landing, so we have looked at all of those. And to get back to, the thing about the business plan is, the business in Chautauqua County has always been sustained by the airport. And when we say this, it's not gonna be a seasonal airport. We mentioned the likes of Chautauqua Institution because that's another area that has never been discussed when we talk about the airport. People have focused on Cummins and SKF and Hope's Windows. Anybody who travels for business, my dad worked here with Cummins Engine. He worked for the Jamestown Labor Management Council. They would get on planes right here in Jamestown, fly to Washington. They would fly to Indianapolis, or Columbus, Indiana. So the opportunity, once this airline is up, would just be allowing those businesses more so, without a private jet, to be able to get their people to and from destination. So, this has been supported before. I don't see it not being supported as well. Ellison Bronze could have their salesmen getting here in Jamestown. And when you're working with a business, they are looking, to save money, but not necessarily the same as an individual, right? There are corporate, different corporate models, et cetera. You've got Hope's Windows, you've got SKF, one of the largest bearing manufacturers in the world, that could, again, access in and out. So, these things, it's there, the support is there. It's a matter of, and these businesses have already, given the support. They did once before, we're waiting for it to happen again. they've all spoken that they would support it and ready to get things back on track. The opportunities there, and to Doug's point, we're looking at all these options, beta technologies. We don't, with myself and Shannon, we haven't always been, hey, look what we're doing, there's so many things that have been moving, constantly. We're always looking at new options, always looking at new opportunities. We're the first electric charging station in the state of New York. The second one is a military base in Watertown. So we're ready and we're poised. I've talked to Shannon, we're ready. I'd love for Chautauqua County to be the birthplace of electric aviation. I don't see why it can't be. And again, to Doug's point, there's a lot of opportunity out there. There's a lot of things. And what I'd like Jamestown or Chautauqua County, more so all of us to start doing is instead of saying why not, as we look at these things, as we all know, whether it was BF Goodrich or Eastman Kodak, different things, is why didn't we land those here? Then the thing is now we have to start landing those opportunities here. Beta's here. It's really been a great opportunity, I think, and it's just, like anything else, things are taking time. It's development, it's R&D, but we're excited, and I think definitely the community is there to support it, and so is the industry.
And the county executive is saying that these people from Ellison Browns are already flying. They're just not leaving from here. They just get in the van and they go to Buffalo or they go to Erie. And that's the competition we've got to beat. There's no question about that. And I think we can because these folks are already here. The SKF people would much rather get on a plane here than drive to Buffalo in the morning. So I think we've got our niche. I just think we have to be able to absorb that and actually get those people motivated to come and leave from the city of Jamestown.
Thank you very much.
Are we done?
I want to say one thing, yes, Shannon, Randy Diversa at large. I believe that airport runway in Jamestown is 5,300 feet with a 1,000-foot safety zone. But the question that I had was, is there a timeline for the study to be completed? Do you have it, or?
Yeah, we're starting it now. They said it'd be about 3 to 6 months to provide the data for that, so anytime after that. We're looking to work with the airlines and try to find the funding sources.
Okay. And I believe that the parking at Bradford is free also. Okay. Thank you.
All right, that's, all right, Shannon, you done? Okay. All right, well, thank you so much. Appreciate you seeing us, having us here. Would you be offended if we just left? Yes.
Not at all.
Okay, all right.
We can leave. No, you have to stay.
You gotta stay now, you're committed.
Lisa stuff. You have to wait for Lisa.
She went to all of All right, we'll move along. Move on to the standing committees. We'll start with housing since they had quite an agenda. No more action than the rest of us. Really?
Thank you, Mr. President. We did have an agenda to work with. We entertained the public comments first, and we had some spirited discussion. As you heard earlier, as a group, Mr. Champ read his email to Crystal and I about some of his ideas and concerns regarding housing. The bottom line is he'd like to see some action rather than spinning our wheels on many things. I believe Crystal did a good job explaining to him again some of the processes that are done by her department to handle some of the housing issues. We didn't get into the numbers on the demos for the year, whether it was land bank demos or ARPA money being utilized or budget money. And we'll pick that up at a later point in time, and it'll certainly be easy enough to document. Mr. Cardozi from Chamber Street brought in photographs showing, again, after 15 years, this neighbor of his not mowing and not taking care of his property. We went into some discussion regarding the new ordinance and how it might apply in this matter, and that there might even be a warrant, or soon to be a warrant, regarding his inability or lack of interest in taking care of his property, not Mr. Cardosi, but his neighbor. Also, there was a photographs circulated with a couple of homes that have been demoed already, and they're waiting to be remediated. King and Allen Street had one, and Pardee and Hazard another, where there's still some potential hazardous materials that we might need to eradicate before the piles get taken away. So we went into some discussion on the quality of life ticketing, the ordinance that we passed. And Crystal's going live with on the 12th. What was that? That was for the HUD?
We've called that kind of our go live date for the quality of life ticket. We've
Right.
worked through what challenges we've had and things that we've come across as we were trying to implement that. Some hiccups, if you will, with court processes and logistics internally. So our target date to go live with that is the 12th. We anticipate we'll still have some hiccups and we'll figure it out as we go, but that's our goal.
We had Missy Patanini spoke, wanting to, again, I think, see some action on some of the dilapidated homes and condemned homes. And she was reassured, I believe, by us on the committee and Crystal, that between the new folks coming on board, there's over 1,200 cases that are being tossed around and evaluated for action by a total of 4 code officers. So there's obviously concern about the condition of the city with this many sad structures that are not habitable or not able to be remediated or restored. And a number of them, as you know, are scheduled or hopefully will be demolished. Lisa McFerrin-Miller recommended that there could be regional type housing courts, regional matters discussed, and have collaborations between some of the other municipalities that are suffering and having some of the same problems that we've had citywide. And she commented also that the DOD handled a lead-based issue in a home and handled by DOT, and there was some appreciation on the part of that particular case being handled and handled properly and quickly. Mary Dwyer spoke also. She's back in town, 4th generation generation from the family, and was, I guess, sticker shock, or worse than that, visual shock on how deplorable some of the neighborhoods and home units are in the city. She suggested again maybe doing some community outreach to educate people and bring people up to speed on what is available and what could be done on our part as a city, but also what the Department of Development could do for folks as well. And she made a very good comment that, that pointing the fingers and saying that this thing's not being done and that's not being cared for and the like is not productive. And so we're trying real hard to convey the fact that the city is proactive with its housing responsibilities, and particularly with the new administration and some new folks on council. And as the chairman of the housing committee, I'm confident that we'll be able to have some more proactive action rather than spinning our wheels. So we didn't get to all the things on the agenda. Crystal did hand out the consolidated action plan from HUD. The dates will obviously be updated, but it gives you the schedule of how the plan will be processed, involving the community, and those 2 programs are the Community Development Block Grant and the Home Investment Partnership Program. So those public workshops and public hearings and public comment periods will be forthcoming. And so we're moving on that to bring it up to speed and renew. Also, she passed out an RLF from the EPA. It's a revolving loan fund for brownfields that may, we didn't get into the minutia of it, but it might also be able to apply to homes, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Crystal?
So this, we didn't get a chance to talk about what this document was. And just for clarification, these documents were only passed out to the housing committee members, just as background information. And the consolidated action plan and annual action plan documents that Councilman Reynolds mentioned are from the prior consolidated action plan. I wanted to kind of bring the committee up to speed on how the process works. So when we start to get into that process, you have some idea of how it is laid out, because the consolidated action plan is really a year-long process. So with the EPA document, and then there was an additional, this spreadsheet here. This talks about a program that we are likely to receive funding from the EPA on. So we're working with them now for a grant. We're calling it Retool Homes, and it would be a partnership with CRIC and the Land Bank and BPU to look at some of the homes, take a number of different homes in different stages of their condition, and given the state's Climate Protection Act and regulations that we're facing on how to bring properties up to what the state's goals are with energy, this would be like a pilot program, so this would provide funding for that program. But again, we didn't get a chance to really get into the details of that, so that's the documentation that you have. I hope that helps make a little bit of sense.
And I think for the public's point of view and understanding also that, housing is such an important issue and such a big part of what we deal with as a council, is that it's part of the Department of Development. And if you combine all the economic development and getting businesses in here, along with the concentration of trying to fix the housing dilemma, it's an overwhelming task. And so we're hopeful that the public will educate themselves by going online and the city website and asking the right questions on why something's either not being done or what is necessary for something to be done, so that the action plans can be put in place. So it was a busy committee meeting, and thank you for everybody in your input.
Any questions? Okay, move on. There was no finance or public works tonight due to lack of agenda. So, if you want to do public safety, Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. President. We just had one resolution resolved that Lieutenant McKinley, Sergeant Nickerson being hereby are authorized to attend the New York State Homeland Security and Emergency Services Tactical Team Leadership Forum to be held in Saratoga Springs, New York from March 5th to March 8th, 2024. Expenses will be paid by Jamestown Police Department pursuant to Section 77B of the General Municipal Laws of the State of New York. That's an annual thing that officers are chosen to go to through the SWAT team, and that passed. Then we had 3 informational reports. The first one was a special event, coldest night of the year walk to be held on Saturday, February 24, 2024, from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. throughout downtown Jamestown. That's put on by Jamestown YWCA. Since it's a friendly walk in support of local charities serving people experiencing hurt, hunger, and homelessness. Looks like they have roughly 42 walkers, 11 teams signed up, and volunteers, so it sounds like an excellent event.
That week looks like it's gonna be cold too.
But, schedule says starts at 4 p.m., send off at 5, and then a light meal served at 6, and then it closes at 7 p.m. So, and you can find that on the YWCA website as well. if you wanna sign up for that. So that passed, and then the second special event was the annual St. Patty's Day Dash to be held on Saturday, March 9th, 2024, 10 a.m. to 11:15. Start finish line will be on 3rd Street between Jefferson and Lafayette. That passed as well, and the final item was just the tour rate card application for Brad's Auto Body, which that passed as well. We had a brief discussion about a possible, I don't know if you call it a housing code violation in Mr. Panernini's ward. Mr. Ramondo's gonna look into that. And then there was a brief discussion where there was some recommendations on lights for utility poles, one of them being up by Fenton that Bill brought up in a dimly lighted area, and then Mr. Paternini's ward as well. So those are gonna be looked at by the BPU. And that's all we had.
Any questions? All right, that's our committee agendas or meetings tonight. Is there anything else before I turn it over to the mayor? No?
So it's not a whole lot for me tonight, as you all are well aware. There's been a lot going on in the last few weeks that we're just working on touching base of, as you heard from Crystal, but it's the same in every department. But one thing I know I've communicated with all of you, just of the retirement of the assessor. And I have filled the position of assessor in a cost savings initiative and a plan. We had to have somebody who was already certified as an assessor, so it kind of was a quick turnaround. So we have 2 part-time assessors who will both be starting this week. Obviously, one will be a little bit heavier than the other. One, for everybody's knowledge, has worked here before. She actually came here with GAR and did the reval, and then was hired by Randy Holcomb, the former assessor. And also, both of them currently assess multiple towns. So coming forward this month, as I've talked to Jen, we will be bringing forward a local law to change the date of the assessment hearings from the last Tuesday in May to the first Monday in June. So really only a couple day change, but to allow them to still be working out in their towns and villages on the New York State grievance day, and then just make a separate one for us to enable us and make sure they're here full time. So they will be starting, which is good news. My hands were kind of tied on the timing, but glad to have them starting Thursday. So that's really the only other change I've had internally, I think, since we talked last week. So that's it for me for open session.
Are you able to share with us, or would you like to share with us the cost savings by implementing that plan of having 2 part-time assessors?
Sure. I don't want to give you the wrong number, so let me
Give
look up.
Give us a rough idea.
Let me look up the. Yes, it's roughly around 23 to 25,000 plus benefits. Neither one of those plus. We are going to use Kevin Okerlund in a contractual side. Kevin Okerlund was a former assessor, very versed in commercial. And so on an as-needed basis, we've budgeted a little bit of leeway for him to do it. But all 3 of them do not take benefits, and all 3 of them are over. So that's a savings that I did not enumerate, but there also is a savings of between 23 and 25,000 from doing this. So
Good choice.
thank you. Then I do have 3 items for executive session. No action to be taken, all under litigation. For the first 2, I definitely need the chief, Erica, Elliot, obviously. The other one, I don't know who you need, Elliot, the Hutch claim. You need Tim, but the Bloomberg. Bloomberg?
I don't need Tim.
Okay.
Or anyone for either of those.
I need Tim for the first one, and Chief Coon. That's it. And Erica and you. And then you 2 can disperse. How's that?
Great. Perfect. There a motion to go into executive session for 3 potential litigation items. So moved. Who moved it? Brett?
Second.
Second by Andrew. All in favor?